Today we're going to explore what it means to be a modern mystic. Can you trust your five senses? What is reality for you? Hi, this is David Greenwood of Your Life in the Now, where we help you to move beyond the old conditioned mind and see and feel and sense reality around you in a whole new way that benefits you most to achieve the life you deserve and desire. So what does it mean to be a modern mystic? Well, a mystic can be defined as someone who sees and perceives reality in a whole new way with a more spiritual connection. That becomes their reality. In essence, they're living two realities at once, living in the world but not of it. Mystics throughout time, whether you talk about the religious people, the different illumined beings, they're all there to help us, to guide us forward so that we can see that life is not really the way that we perceive it. So let's discover a little bit more about how we see reality. How do you see reality? What does it mean for you? You're going to find that you perceive reality through your five senses, for the most part. The sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing. Most of the senses come in through our eyes and through our ears. Now imagine if you didn't have eyes or ears. Now I know there's people who are blind and deaf, and they do pretty well at getting around, but the people that had to create the world needed those senses. If we didn't have those, if we never had those, life would be entirely different. Our senses literally define our reality. You can think of your senses keyed into this level of reality. Now, the Buddhists and other people believe that this world is an illusion, a Maya, as they call it, because they believe that what we see and perceive is really not real at all. It's just imagined because of our mind and our perception of life. Well, I agree with them and don't agree with them. I agree that this world can be a non-reality seen from other levels of being. Imagine the world of molecules or even the insect. Everything looks entirely different. If you go all the way down to the quantum level, which we're going to discuss a little bit later, it's empty space, it's air, it's energy. Nothing would appear like it does. Our reality does not exist. So what does it mean to have a reality? Well, again, our senses key us into this level of reality. So in that perspective, this is real because this is what we have. This is what our senses tell us is real. So in reality, it can be both. And I think it's very healthy for us to be able to imagine and even perceive other levels of reality. Knowing that when you sense reality, you're not really limited, but we can explore how we can open up to other levels of sensing life. And of course, you're aware that we make mistakes all the time. I lived in the Southwest for many years in graduate school, and was wonderful to do my thesis at Zion National Park and live at the Grand Canyon. I do a lot of hiking, climbing around ledges. I put my hand up to pull myself up. And oftentimes I'd wonder, is there a rattlesnake there? Am I going to get bit this time or stung by a scorpion? All those years I spent there, I never saw a rattlesnake. Not on my own. I'd see them when I was out with other people in geology field trips, but I just didn't see it. But you better believe my subconscious mind was thinking rattlesnakes quite a bit. And sometimes I'd see a stick that looked odd and my mind would immediately think it was a snake or some other little twig, and you'd think it might be a scorpion. Our minds make mistakes all the time. You can think of your mind, your conditioned mind, literally conditioned by your experiences. Everything you've experienced in your life is going into that reservoir called your subconscious awareness. It's your knowledge base. From that knowledge base, you perceive the world, you perceive the universe. There was a movie and a book back in about 2006, I think it was, called The Secret. And on it, they had an interesting topic where they said that when Columbus and other Spaniards, people from Europe, came over to Central and South America, when the ships were there in the harbor, they claimed that the native tribes did not even see the ships because they were so beyond their level of reality. They couldn't even perceive of such a thing. Well, I don't believe that's true. I believe their eyes saw it, but they just didn't know what they were seeing. So think about your five senses, how information is coming into it. And imagine if we had other abilities, other senses. What if we could sense ultraviolet, gamma radiation, X-rays, or infrared, or pressure waves when storms come in, or there's so many different other levels of radiation, so many other bits of information that is out there all the time. It's real. We just don't perceive it. What would life be like if we could sense it or feel it or touch it or see it? Entirely different. Our reality would be so different. So I often laugh when people talk about aliens coming here. And I say, well, why would you think their alien world is exactly the same? Or why would they develop exactly the same senses as us? They might have a whole other realm of senses. They may not even be able to see or perceive us. We may not even be there for them. There's a whole realm of things you can imagine somebody living on another planet, another world. How would they develop their senses? How do they perceive the world, the universe? So I think it's important to think about these things so that you can have a great appreciation of your life and also be open to other possibilities. So if we could perceive other wavelengths, it would help us in so many ways that we're not able to even perceive of now. It would cause a shift of awareness. Now, how would that affect your daily life, right? What's in it for you? What's the advantage for you to be able to perceive things differently? Well, for one thing, if you suddenly had a whole new perception, a whole new ability, everything in your life would change. It would shake you out of old habit patterns. It would really disturb your subconscious, that conditioned mind, which is wanting safety and security. But it would open up a whole new way of seeing and perceiving the universe, and I think you would have a greater appreciation of everything around you and your life itself. So, you're probably not going to develop a new sense overnight, but there is a way that you can sense things in a different way. And we're talking about becoming what I said, the modern mystic. And the modern mystic is simply you. You are the modern mystic. You already have the capacity, the capability of perceiving another level of reality if you can just quiet your brain and begin to perceive what's around you. It literally is developing and bringing forth another way of perceiving things. Now, you still have your five senses when you're in the physical world, but you're adding a whole other sense of awareness that is beyond those senses. It's not like an ESP in the same way. It's a total immersion within a field of energy where everything is different. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the idea that you have this ability, and yes, it will change your life when you begin to perceive it. My goal is to help you understand that this is who you are, and when you sense and perceive this level of reality that's always around you, your life will change for the better. It's remember that old saying that if a tree falls in the forest, would anybody hear it? Well, the answer is no. It's pretty simple. When a tree falls in the forest, there are pressure waves, energy going out, waves of sound, but they're waves. If there's no ear to hear it, there's no sound. It's a wave. Now, quantum physics has come along and really helped us with this, and they, after years of study, et cetera, they understand now that light, reality, is both a particle and a wavelength. The particle is when we observe things, it becomes practically, objectively, quantifiably anchored here. You see a tree, it looks like a tree. Your subconscious mind with knowledge base says that's a tree. You see it that way, you perceive it that way. If you didn't have eyes, you wouldn't really even know it's there in the same way. But the idea is, when things are a particle, they're observable. When the mere fact you're observing it makes it a particle, makes it real, makes it physically here. But when you're not observing it, that thing in reality is a combination of molecules and atoms and energy, and it literally is now in its original state, the state that other beings could probably see it entirely different, but we perceive it as a tree because of our senses. So we don't have to get too far into quantum physics, but the idea is the very act of observing something changes it into a particle, and allows it to manifest in a way that we can perceive it. So if you can move into another sense of exploring and sensing life around you from a whole different level of senses, everything changes. It's a shift of awareness. And there's the psychic realm and there is the spiritual realm. Now, probably like many of you, I went through my psychic phase where I was interested in ESP and astral projection and ghosts and demons and all the other things that went with it. That was fun. But I discovered that when you are putting your energy into that level, and I could think of it as a level of vibration, a fairly low level of vibration, it's like you attract and move into that reality where those things are there. And in one of the next podcasts or next videos, I'll talk about my experiences if you're interested in psychic phenomena. It wasn't always a pleasant one, but it was very eye-opening for me. And what it taught me was that in reality, I was more interested in a more mature form of expression and movement, which is more of a spiritual perspective, not the fun level of psychic phenomena. And when I moved in more the spiritual level, the other things just went away. It was pretty amazing how they just quit. I was not literally vibrating at that level to perceive it. And that showed me there's something about these different levels that do affect our level of perception and our perceptibility during your daily life. So what I discovered going through my own process is that my mind got quieter as my analytical mind, the part of your brain that's the monkey mind, constantly chattering, critical mind, as that started to quiet down, then a healthy subconscious came in. There was more of a quietness, more of a stillness, and of silence. And in that silence of the mind, it began to perceive this that is always there. Just, it's an awareness, and it feels entirely different than anything I'd ever perceived before. Now, you still have eyes. If your eyes open, you see the tree, you hear things, but it's different. With a quiet mind, your mind is not interpreting things. It's not turning things into knowledge. It's not literally taking that particle and analyzing it as our subconscious does without you even knowing it. It's always a fight or flight mode. Is that tree dangerous? No. What is a tree? What does it look like? What, et cetera, et cetera. It goes through your subconscious all the time. When that quiets down, there's a pure perception. And you see the tree looks different. Now, it's still a tree. It probably doesn't look different, but it feels different. There's nothing between you and the tree. And you begin to realize that when you're seeing a tree from that busy analytical mind, you're seeing it through a film, through a screen, through an image that you project. When that mind quiets, you begin to see it with direct perception, and it feels different. You have to experience it to understand what I'm saying. And that's what I'm always wanting to do. I'm going to try my best to explain these things as I see it. You might see it differently, but I want you to do it so that you can see it for yourself. I want you to move beyond the limits of those five senses and begin to experience life from this other place as well. Becoming a modern mystic means you live in two worlds at once. It allows you to have your five senses and also connect in a deeper way. It's like an awakening into something. I've heard many descriptions of like you're folded into it. It's not around you because you are part of it. You're not separate from it. It literally is an awakening that there's a oneness. And that's what it feels like. You feel like you're in this oneness. Your brain isn't moving, but there's still a perception there. And it's it's impossible for me to describe. I'll try my best. But I want you to experience it and just see with that quiet mind, you're still there. There still is an observer behind everything. And many people have said that, well, this is what it's like to pass on, to die. You move into this space where you're pure perception, and if you experience the dying of the known while you're alive, the dying of your body at the same time moves you into that space. It's a transition, yet there's an awareness that just merges with it. And hence there's no fear, there's none of the other things that go with it. Now, of course, we're going to find out someday, but wouldn't it be nice to already be able to feel what it's like to die to the known now, so that that fear goes away and you can enjoy your life even more. That's the beauty of this, is that when you can die to the moment, I hate to use that word because of bad connotation, but when the mind gets quiet and still, you're in that perceptive space. And then not only does that fear of death go away, but the enjoyment of the moment increases immensely. You're not caught up in the conditioned mind and all those worries and what ifs. You're in the moment and you're enjoying it fully. And that's one of the benefits of being a modern mystic. There's nothing special, the word. It's just a word that I put together. Other people have said mystic, probably even said modern mystic. There's nothing special about me. I'm exactly like you. We literally are one being. At the level of the quantum level, it's a sea of energy. I don't like to use the word God because it has so many connotations, but it is that. You are just, there's this oneness. There's no separation. And imagine feeling that while you're alive still, feeling that connection. That's why I say everything changes for the better. Allows you to move beyond the level of all the old resistance. So 5 outer senses, great. I just want you to be able to perceive life in a different way with those senses. And again, when you have to work and you have to talk with somebody, you're not in that same oneness in quite the same way. Now, maybe some people are. Some special people are able to do it all the time. I can't. Those people, for the most part, from what I've observed, don't have much of an ego at all. And some of them never had an ego. And are able to be in that space. I have an ego. I was born and raised in this world, and I enjoy having it, but I'm always trying my best to heal it, to make it more self-aware. And as it continues to change, you go from one stage to another. But you don't have to be worried about disappearing when you experience this. You still are you. There's just more of you. And when you do it, it's like you remember what you were like as a teenager, but you're different than a teenager. The moment that you experience this, you're different than who you were right before that, but you still are the continuation. You are the consciousness that continues. So please experience it. It doesn't mean you have to go sit on a mountainside somewhere and forget about everything. No, you do your job, you explore, just everything works out better. There's a passion, there's an energy, there's an intelligence that moves beyond it. Find out how it folds into your own daily life. You'll do it your own unique way. It's so amazing. Later in some of the videos, I am going to talk about UFOs and aliens a little bit more, about the whole idea. But people spend so much time and energy talking about that, and they're missing their life. I mean, this is so much more amazing. There's beings on other planets. Probably. I think there's probably billions of beings on other planets. But you're here now. Live life now. Find out. Of course, if you want to find out if there's aliens, there's nothing wrong with that at all. So I'm a scientist by profession. I'm interested in pursuing it. I spend time focusing on it, learning, growing. But I love my life now. I'm not waiting for an alien to make my life complete. So what I'm getting at is that you do have the power and the ability right now to perceive this. All it takes is a quiet mind, a still mind. And it happens as you move beyond the conditioned mind and you begin to experience step by step, as your ego continues to get healthier, your ability to perceive this naturally occurs. Now, we're not doing it, let me stress this, we're not moving into this space so we can just have these great experiences. That's just the ego wanting experiences. The experiences happen as a natural outcome of you getting healthier. As you moving beyond, as you moving into the stillness, it's there. But far too many people come in who have this tremendous ego, and their ego wants to be spiritual. They want to control it. They want to be the ones that experience it. The ego cannot experience it. It's beyond the ego. The ego is the known. The ego is the sum total of your whole life. It's a tool that can never make the transition or open up into this oneness. When you do, you move beyond your ego. You're now in a whole new way of experience, a new way of perceiving reality. And then you come back to the egoic mind because it's thoughts, it's what you need, it's a tool, it's like a car, but you don't need to be in your car all the time. so you can be without it and you can live without it at times. Find your balance. It will work for you. I guarantee it. So the bottom line is, just think about the idea that you already have this capacity, this capability to move beyond the conditioned mind. And when you see the importance of doing that, it will naturally lead you into this amazing space that I guarantee will change your life for the better. This is David Greenwood of Your Life in the Now. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video or even click the little notification bar or bell, whatever is there, and you'll be notified whenever another video comes out. See you next time.